according to some measurements. But here's the twist. They don't report exhaustion the way industrialized populations do. Anthropologist David Sampson, who has run actigraphy studies on the Hadza, found their sleep, while fragmented, doesn't carry the same anxiety yours does. They aren't lying awake worrying about lying awake. That's the real divergence, not how much they slept, how they related to not sleeping. Sampson's work also points to something called the poor sleeper hypothesis, a deliberately playful name for a serious idea. In small foraging groups, the people who slept lightest, who woke easiest at a snapped twig or a distant call, may have been doing valuable, even essential work simply by being bad sleepers. A camp full of only deep sleepers might rest better on any single night, but it would also be a camp far more vulnerable on the one night it mattered most. So a mix of light and heavy sleepers wasn't a flaw to be corrected. It was a kind of insurance, distributed unevenly across the group, that no modern mattress commercial would ever think to advertise. You wake at 3 a.m. and your mind immediately races. Why am I awake? I have to be up in 4 hours. I'm going to be exhausted tomorrow. This is a problem. None of that internal panic existed for someone biphasic sleeping by firelight 12,000 years ago. Waking in the night wasn't a malfunction to be fixed. It was simply the second half of the night doing what it always did. So when did this change? Historians point to a fairly specific culprit: artificial light, and with it, industrialization. Ekirch's research traces the decline of segmented sleep directly to the spread of street lighting and, later, electric light in homes throughout the 1700s and 1800s. As nights became brighter and more productive, sleep got compressed into a single, efficient block, the same way factory shifts compressed labor into single, efficient blocks. Sleep became a task to complete, not a rhythm to follow. Coffee houses stayed open later. Factories ran night shifts. The clock, once a loose suggestion, became the organizing logic of an entire life. And somewhere in that shift, the quiet hour between first and second sleep simply had nowhere left to go. It got squeezed out, the way a river gets squeezed into a narrower channel until it runs faster, harder, with less room to wander. It's worth noting this wasn't only about light. Pre-industrial households, even centuries after the invention of fire, often slept in shared rooms, sometimes shared beds, parents and children and occasionally neighbors all under one roof. Waking in the night wasn't a private, isolating event the way it tends to be for you, alone under a single blanket in a single room. There was almost always someone else stirring nearby, someone to murmur to, someone whose breathing you could simply listen to until your own slowed back down. Solitude at 3 a.m. may be a far newer invention than electric light itself. By the time electric light reached nearly everyone, the very concept of first sleep had vanished from common memory. People forgot they'd ever slept any other way. The night, once a long layered stretch with room to wake, think, talk, and drift back down, became something to get through as fast and unconsciously as possible. 8 hours in one piece became the gold standard. Anything less, or anything broken, became a personal failure rather than a structural shift in how an entire civilization decided to use the dark. Which brings you back to 3 a.m., staring at your ceiling, convinced something is wrong with you. Nothing is wrong with you. Your body may simply be reaching for a pattern it was built for long before clocks, alarms, or sleep apps told it otherwise. The anxiety isn't ancient. The anxiety is new. The waking itself might be one of the oldest things you do. There's something almost tender about that idea. Somewhere in your nervous system is a structure shaped by thousands of generations of people who woke in the dark, listened to the fire crack, maybe spoke softly to someone beside them, and then, without panic, let themselves drift back under. They weren't fighting the night. They were living inside it. Consider, too, what they didn't have to fight. No glowing rectangle promising urgent news that could wait until morning. No mental tally of tomorrow's meetings ticking through their head. The content of their 3 a.m. wasn't empty, but it wasn't anxious either. It was dreams half-remembered, the shape of a tool, the warmth of a fire, the low murmur of another voice nearby. Your 3 a.m. is filled instead with notifications you haven't opened yet, and a body that doesn't know how to be awake without also being worried. That's worth sitting with. The difference between their wakefulness and yours isn't biological, it's informational. They had less to be afraid of in that specific hour, even surrounded by a literal unlit wilderness, than you do lying in a locked, heated room with a phone an arm's length away. So tonight, when you wake at 3 a.m., maybe don't reach for your phone. Maybe don't spiral into the math of how many hours you have left. Maybe just lie there for a moment, in the dark, the way humans always have. Let your mind wander where it wants to go. Notice that the wakefulness itself isn't the enemy. It never was. It's the story you tell yourself about it that turned a quiet biological inheritance into a private 3 a.m. crisis. It's 3 a.m. again, you're staring at the ceiling. But maybe, for the first time, you're not alone in that. You're doing something your ancestors did every single night of their lives, around a fire that's long since gone out, in a darkness that for them was never really empty.